I ended up in a circle of men in Silicon Valley who are now what we would refer to as the techno-fascists. You had a choice to either live long and prosper, which is what we were doing, or be fruitful and multiply.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Every Day's a Train Wreck. I'm your host, Marley Major, and I am very excited. Hopefully, you're excited with my new pixelated top. Feel it's very appropriate for life in the digital age with the girl that's going to tell us all about it, Miss Becca Camp with Fearless Femmes. And I think I'm going to take you on a little bit of a wild ride today. No surprise, Becca. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. Thank you for going on the little roller coaster ride I'm going to take you on. And tell the audience a little bit about you and
Oh man,
why
I'm
they should be
thrilled.
listening.
I'm thrilled, Marley, and truly it is Marley's world. We're all just living in it. I am here for this ride. I am all in. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go,
So
girl.
so I'm Becca Camp, as I was introduced. I'm the CEO and founder of Fearless Femmes, which is a mastermind that trains women to leverage their nervous system as a instrument of influence and power. So I do one-on-one coaching as well to kind of complement that. But we're really here to learn about the mechanics of our nervous system, leveraging my background in human anatomy and physiology, as well as my background engaging with really fucked up power dynamics in Silicon Valley for the first chapter of my career. So really important timing, I feel like, for this.
I will only go so far with that. I love my science. Love, love, love data, numbers, etc. And what kind of blew me away about you is you are very smart. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but you're very smart and you have had I mean, you could be my granddaughter, right? Like you've had a really good career so far. And
Yeah.
it's like a serious career. I mean, not that I guess but I mean, it isn't like you've just been kind of trekking the Himalayas and then decided to like, oh, I'm going to now coach people on their nervous system, which I mean, I guess that would be fine too. But you actually have data and science and an entrepreneurship camp and all that stuff, virtual summit that we're going to talk about. But give us a little bit about your like background, because you're talking about physiology and you're talking about all those things. And to me, yours truly having been in like rehab so many times, not for alcohol, though probably that should come next, but for like my knees and my back and everything else. Let's dig deeper into that part of your background and how it affects your work now.
Oh my gosh, of course. So it's one of those things where nothing about my journey professionally made sense until I started my own business. And then it all fell into place with a perfectly linear narrative. It's kind of amazing. And when we follow our hearts and our dreams, I really do believe that that tends to be how it goes.
Yeah.
But for my background, I like to say that I got lost on my way to med school. I did
Well
all
put.
of the highest level, master's level biochemistry and human anatomy and physiology and all of that. Ended up getting my degree specifically at this intersection of anatomy and physiology and how human culture evolved.
Okay. Now
So
pause. Now
yeah.
pause, because while I do have a degree from a very fine university, it is not their fault that I am so challenged. So, what exactly does it mean to say, and because when you say anatomy and physiology, I'm sorry, I'm going to
Mhm.
raise my hand. I'm going to say that seems like the same thing to me. Like they seem
Yeah.
like synonyms. So, what does that mean?
No, it's a really great distinction to make. And it's not hugely important, but just for everyone's understanding to be on the same page. Anatomy is kind of like the parts, right? Like here is my hand and it's got tendons and fingernails and bones inside of it. That's the anatomy, right? We can like
Okay.
point to it and name it. The physiology is how it moves.
Hmm.
And so it's literally like the dynamics all the way down to the way that my neurons are firing from my brain to actually tell my hand what to do. So you can drill it down all the way to a biochemical level if you, like me, have a neurodivergent special interest in such a thing.
Okay. Well, now you're speaking my language, because
Yep.
I just heard the big word neurodivergent maybe like a year ago, and that puts in ADHD and all those like people like me, right? Who can do all kinds of things, but like I told you this morning, can't seem to manage to replug in their like microphone box to their computer, their Apple computer, going in the right direction. It's amazing how when you just switch a chord, the direction of a chord, right? Should be some kind of metaphor for something. But in Go High Level, you have like funnels and workflows. And so
Mhm.
we were talking about this yesterday.
Mhm.
And it's like, what's the difference between a funnel and a workflow? And they kind of were like, the workflow is like the nuts and bolts, like this email connects to this email, connects to this text message. It's like a series of triggers. So that sounds to me like kind of what you were talking about. And then the funnel is like the hand, like you look at it, it's more kind of the big picture. Do I have that right or no?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on how you wanna interpret the metaphor. I mean, I guess one way to think about it is like anatomy is kinda like you say, maybe better it relates to the funnel
Okay.
where or sorry, to the CRM, where you're
Yeah.
like, "Okay, here's all the different people that we've got on our system,"
Ah, got
and
it.
like
Okay.
and then the funnel's like how they move through the system.
Got it.
And I
Okay.
think that's probably the better description because there
Okay.
is sort of a funnel of, like, me having a thought and then my hand moving, and I actually kinda like I dig that analogy, so let's roll with it.
Okay. Well, okay. So, well, I really dig it because now I know what the heck you're talking about. So,
Yep.
okay. So you have the thought in your brain and then, and you
Mhm.
tell your hand, okay, I want you to do this. Right.
Yeah,
And then in theory, your hand is going to do it. Now,
yeah,
in how did that then, how did you go from that? So, well, A, how'd you go from, hey, you're going to be a doctor to
yeah.
now you're doing entrepreneurial summits? Like walk us through that workflow, that journey.
Yeah, so I went through the whole process of the med school rigmarole all the
Wow.
way through interviews, and my number 1 choice for med school, which was Mayo Clinic, the most competitive school in the world, basically. They admit like 50 students or something. And I had done I was really, really committed to, like, their style of patient care because it was very human first. I won't that's a story
Okay.
for another day. But I didn't wanna just be another doctor that kinda, like, just didn't look at the patient as a whole
Right.
system,
Right.
right? And struggled within that system to give them good care. And so that was really gonna be my be all end all. And when I got waitlisted there, I sort of had this thought. I had been kind of learning about the tech industry. This is 2008 when like you could actually make real friends on Twitter because
Mhm.
there were
Yeah,
like enough. Yeah, it was small enough.
yeah.
And basically, I ended up partying my way into a role in Silicon Valley,
Okay,
starting
do
as
tell. Like the whole Silicon Valley, like cocaine direction or like sipping, like good Chardonnay or what do you mean
Yeah.
partying?
So I literally mean just going and making friends. And this has always been at least I identified as an extrovert at the time since I'm turning 40. That's shifted a bit. But
Yeah.
but uh but basically I went out there with this idea that if I just did my thing and made true authentic connections with people and like stayed curious about what they were about, things would just work out for me. Like the level of like sheer entitlement was mind-boggling. And sometimes I try to channel 22-year-old Becca again
Yeah.
where I'm damn, like, she just walked into Silicon Valley, like, just with no preconceptions about what was going on,
Now
no
let
hes
me but I like okay, but hang on a
Yeah.
second. I want to put a pin in that for a minute because when you say entitlement to me, as soon as you describe that, I'm like that's manifesting, right? That's like fake it till
Mhm.
you make it. That's like all of us. I mean, mothers would never have children if, we looked at all the books of this is what's going to happen like during childbirth, right? I mean, you just wouldn't if you knew everything you were going to have to face. That goes for entrepreneurship, that goes for a lot of things. So to me, it's it's like that greenness that
Mhm.
you need, right? Because how many times have you heard an I mean, you interview entrepreneurs. How many times have you heard an entrepreneur say, "If I knew then what I know now," or like a business person or a mom or anything else? So, and by the way, where were you from when you went to Silicon Valley?
Oh, yeah, so I was from Fort Worth, Texas, so, like,
Okay, yeah.
very little connection.
Okay. And what made you want to go? So you're waitlisted at the Mayo Clinic, which I
Mm.
find just truly mind-boggling. I mean, barely can spell Mayo Clinic, and you're waitlisted. So then you go to Silicon Valley, and you're like, but what made you say, "Hey, I want to be tech girl"?
Yeah. In 2008, there was a big dialogue happening around healthcare policy, and
Hmm.
in particular, just a lot of healthcare legislation happening. It was the advent of Obamacare. There was a lot going on at the intersection of humans, policy, and tech. Health tech was also becoming like kind of a big thing. People were starting to track their data and their health data. Patients were becoming more empowered through it.
Hmm.
And just through Twitter, through literal discussions that I had on the
Hmm.
internet as a person sitting in
Right.
Fort Worth, Texas, I developed these friendships that actually were with people who were like, "Wow, you actually have something interesting to say. You seem really curious and smart. Like, and the relationship just kind of blossomed. So when I got out there, I just couch surfed, Marley. I straight up was like, I've got one place to stay for like a week or two, and I'm gonna go to stay the next place. And I think it was probably 2 months in that I had my first job offer as like customer
But what
service
are
for.
you okay, so what
Mhm.
are you doing for the 2 months? Okay, so I get that you're couch surfing, and was it the full, food and beverage model? Like, was the person you're couch surfing on like, "Hey, listen, yeah, we'll feed you and clothe you," or I mean, what
Oh, I
was
did little gigs all over the place. It was so
Got it.
random, Marley. Like, I did, basically any kind of work that I could get to scrape it together. Because like,
Okay,
I wasn't getting
tell
parental.
us. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
tell us because
Oh
there's a
my
lot I
god.
mean, there's, like, plenty of 22-year-olds who might
Yeah.
be listening to this, or by the way, plenty of 38-year-olds who are like, "F this, I need a change of scenery, I'm gonna go do something."
Yeah.
And so tell us how like, you went from Texas, you got on the plane, you had some Twitter friends, right? So
Mhm.
you, like the old Twitter thing, flew to Silicon Valley. Had you seen like physical people other than like on Twitter? Like, did you actually had you touched these people before and had lunch with them, or no? They were all just Twitter friends.
Yep, they're all just Twitter friends, and I guess here's the thing that I did that was really smart that I didn't realize at the time was really
Okay.
smart. This is a good I think a really good thing to take away for anyone who's
Okay.
curious to, like, just, like, make a giant jump like this. I volunteered for conferences all over the place. So
Oh, okay.
there's also through Twitter friends, I, like, randomly got this idea from people who ran, like, TED, like, the big not TEDx, like, Big TED.
Big Ted.
And they ran the volunteer organization for TED, where you got a per diem and, like, you just, I don't know, checked badges at the door, and the rest of the time, Marley, you pretended you were an attendee because you had access.
Well, imagine that. Fake it till you make it. Okay. Okay. There you go.
100%. So now we're seeing like, and when I moved to Silicon Valley, I'd been doing that, in wherever I could get in. I did this summit series, which you've heard of. Mayo Clinic had an innovation conference where I did it. Like there was all of this constellation of
Okay.
big name conferences where I
Okay.
like got in as a volunteer.
Now wait, are they so they're all conferences are not necessarily related to TED, right? They're
Mhm.
just big conferences, or
Yeah,
are
TED
they
was
related to TED?
one of them. Yeah, TED was one of them. Then
Okay.
there's other unrelated ones, but still a lot of big names coming in and out of there.
I got to tell you that's genius because one of the things I talk about in business is like, when people start, we talk about the target audience and all that stuff ad nauseum. And I try to explain it as it's like go where the fish are swimming. So one of the things I always say is like if you're a realtor, and you're moving into a new town or something, like you get involved in the association type things, whatever, that's great. But when you get involved like at the charity level, you're donating your time, people are getting to know, like, and trust you, et cetera. So that's a very unique angle though that I hadn't thought of is this conference piece because A, you're donating your time or whatever. So obviously people are getting to know, like, and trust you. B, though, that's a huge platform. So you're not going swimming in a fishbowl. You are going swimming in the freaking Atlantic Ocean. I mean, if you work it, you have potential to meet a lot of really great people
And just go ahead and sit at the head of the table,
and
guys. Just
sit because you are freaking in charge. And we all know that it's like the customs agent or the bouncer at the nightclub. I mean, that guy might have a sixth grade education, but that Saturday night in Manhattan, he's in charge of who gets in and out. So you better smile and nod. Okay, so let's break it down. How many you fly in, you tweet in, you get on your couch, you meet your new friend. They're not a serial killer. Like that wasn't the day yet of catfish, or was it? Like,
it was probably happening, but I have a good nose for people, so
okay,
I believe that, maybe this is confirmation bias, but I've made it to 40. So,
okay,
like,
yeah,
so
okay,
I've made it this long,
yeah.
and trusting my instincts about whether or not someone's a serial killer has worked out pretty well for me, so.
Okay, got it. So you get to the couch. They are who they say they are. And you say, "Hey, where's the conference in town?" Or or did you already know that? Did you say like, "Oh, I've got a list of conferences." Like like walk us through specifically because I like to give people like a
Play by
hey, go try this.
So we get there, we land, we have lunch or dinner or whatever, and I ask them what they're up to. I'm asking like how they are moving socially through the world. And I think this is another really cool theme, right? Which is the idea that soft power was my primary instrument.
Now, what the frick is soft power?
So soft power, if you can imagine that hard power is, like guns or a
Okay.
podium, right? Where like you like just are like given authority.
Got it.
That's hard power, right?
Okay.
Soft power is what we tend to associate with feminized skills. So stuff like
Okay.
behind the scenes relationship
Yeah.
building, or influence by like asking someone about themselves, or like introducing to people.
Like primal kind of nurturing component, but then the chick's way to do the know, like, and trust, right? Where you okay, got it. So you're those soft connections. It's like the person in the office who is the one that always remembers somebody's birthday and has the card and is always that person, right?
Yep.
Okay, got it. Perfect. Okay, so you have this big girl conversation about how do you navigate through your ecosystem, whatever your big words are. And what do they tell you? Do they say, "Oh, I go to bars on Saturday night," or are you specifically talking about like where do you go to network, but in a non-networking way?
I mean, I basically say, "Where do you go to network?" There's kind of a let's party. Like,
Yeah,
I'm fun to hang out
yeah.
with. Take me to where you're going tonight. Like, what's on the
Ah,
agenda?
okay.
And so I think, like, and it's just everyone at the time, and I think still think this is the case. When you have an actual connection with somebody, like
Yeah,
just a friendship connection,
yeah.
it's a blast to have someone to just roll around town with,
Yes.
introducing to new people. Like, people are
Yeah.
so stoked to do
Yeah.
that for most
Yeah.
people. Like, if you have a real friendship, if it's really warm, even if it's just via Twitter for
Yes.
a year,
Yeah. Okay.
there's sort of this there's this genuine desire to show someone, to like give someone entree into something that they're interested in.
When you got there to the couch, were they like, I don't want this girl to like me too much because she's going to be here for 2 months? Or was it like I mean, hey, can you let me crash for a week while I learn your fishbowl ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, I think it wasn't that explicit, if I'm honest. So this
Okay.
is where, like, if I'm looking back, I can kind of maybe attribute a little more intentionality to it, but that would probably be overstating it, Marley. Like, I
Yeah.
think that I just was there, I hung out for a little while, I have a good sense of like when I'm overstaying my welcome,
Got it.
and so I tuned into that, right, my
Okay.
intuition, basically about
Right.
like what felt good to preserve the relationship, and make
Okay.
it.
So emotional intelligence
Mhm.
kicks in.
Yeah.
You read the room. You're like,
Mhm.
time to find my next sofa you love.
Yep.
And how do you do that?
Yeah. So I think that is where just continuing to make friends. Like, if you can imagine that there's a social graph
Okay.
that you can tap into nodes. And one of the things I think that I also did very well is identifying what's called connectors, right? This is sort of like
Mhm.
I think you, Marley, you know the ins and outs of this better than almost anyone.
Sure as hell do, good or bad. I should have been a Chinese spy. Okay, got it. Keep
Exactly, so
going.
there's the little hubs with a bunch of
Mhm,
spokes coming off
mhm,
of them, and I think one
mhm,
thing that I had a good eye for is identifying those people and, again, forming an actual connection with them, not one based on kind of like an outcome or
mhm.
some transactional weirdness. I genuinely liked the person. If I didn't, then, they could fuck right off. But I found the nodes like that who also make a practice. It's almost like it's a hobby for them to be bringing new people in and making those
Well,
connections.
and let me stop you there too, because when I don't feel like I'm gonna be, a hermit, I will naturally be that person. I like where you're going, where you're saying it's like a hobby, but I'm
Mhm.
also gonna go one step further and say you can't help yourself, right? It's kind of like when like the matchmaker, whatever, everybody has that kind of friend that's like always trying to get people together and stuff. And it's sort of to me, if I'm out with you or I'm whatever in your space and you're front of mind, top of mind for me, I'm going to be like, oh, this is my friend so and so. Oh, you know what, Becca, you mentioned you needed somebody with your website. Why don't you talk to that person? And then, oh, you're at lunch. Oh, by the way, that person would be amazing. You needed a photographer. They're great. Why don't you chat with them? Like it's like a bee going flower to flower. It that's just what a bee does, right? It's like, okay, so okay, so keep going. I like it.
So this is actually, Marley, I was, like, debating whether or not to take this there, but I think I have to. The story's
100%. 100 per today is the day. I mean, how would you even debate? That's the weird
totally.
part. Okay.
I was just, oh, it's like it gets to a place that's, like, deep in my heart, so
Okay.
you'll understand.
Perfect.
So, effectively, what I realized that I was doing was becoming a node myself. Like, I was becoming a hub, a connector
Mm.
myself. So this was something, eventually I found an apartment, right? This probably went on for a couple months of the couch surfing, found an apartment, had, cobbled together enough gig work, like working production for some random TV show. I can't remember all of the weird gigs that I that I did.
Okay.
until I found my first full-time job. So that's a less interesting story than what happened before that.
Okay.
So what happened was through my efforts that I now can call becoming a connector, I ended up in a circle of men in Silicon Valley
Okay.
who are now what we would refer to as the techno-fascists.
Okay.
That they're causing a lot of the problems in our economy broadly.
Okay.
And what I can say with a great deal of confidence, having been deep in that world,
Yeah.
as one of the women
Yeah.
who made their lives better,
Okay.
right? I dated one of them, I was friends with others, like, I was pretty deep. I started this practice where I got really good at hosting because again, with soft power, right? You're here to like pick the
Right.
personalities and kind of have this architecture in
It's
mind
like
about like
here, kitty, kitty. It's like what a good host or hostess does with an event. You're having people over for dinner. To me, people get it wrong so many times because they think I'm gonna have people over for dinner. I'm gonna have all the same kind of people over, and that's gonna make a good mix. In reality, it's much more interesting. The party's much cooler when
Mhm.
it's the head of this and the gardener for so and so, and this one is a painter who's a like it just the more you mix it up. But can you define for us your definition of techno fascist? Because me not being in the Silicon Valley world, et
Mhm.
cetera, and I'm sure there are other people out there, it's like we might pretend we know what that means, but what does it mean to you?
So I'll give a very tangible example, right?
Okay.
So as I just to like illustrate it, and what I can say is that I observed the seeds of the fascism that we see today in tech being planted then, very
Okay.
very pronounced way. And a great
Okay.
example of it is this idea that privileged people, smart people,
Okay.
attractive people by,
Okay.
these men's definition
Okay.
are genetically superior to others. That I heard, Marley, at these dinner tables, like they were like no, they were saying the quiet part out loud over and over and over again.
Okay, wait, so pause, but wait, I want to make sure I get it. Okay, so hang on a second. So you're saying they knew that they were privileged and smart and good looking and whatever it is, okay? And
Mm,
they were and they were actually talking about that.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
so they were not like humble guy. They were like, "Oh, I'm fabulous and I know it, and then here's my opinion on X subject."
And specifically when we were talking about the flow of power and the flow of finances through this world, because again, these guys are millionaires becoming billionaires.
You're not just picking up on you guys are talking about farmers market and you're picking up somebody's like biases or something. You guys are actually on the
Yep.
subject of tech and power, and they are basically kind of having a conversation like we are. Like we're saying to like a junior, 20 something year old, go live your dreams. Here's how you can couch surf for free. They're sort of talking about that, but in their world of this is
Illicit.
how we're going to do the world domination thing.
This was the plan, and particularly in the
Okay.
plan was talking about depriving money and finance and support from people who are genetically inferior, people who tend to be quote unquote overpopulating the planet and depleting
Okay.
resources. And specifically, this whole thing about Elon Musk, like creating a colony on the moon and Mars and whatever,
Right.
was effectively so that we could gather up the elite into a
Okay.
little space pod and leave the rest of the world behind to perish. So specifically, the direct quote. Again, this is an explicit plan, Marley. This is not just
Okay.
like picking up on bias. You had a choice to either live long and prosper, which is what we were doing,
Right.
or be fruitful and multiply. And so the
Okay.
problem was that the live long and prosper people were not having enough babies. And so this is where the techno-fascist part comes in, is that while this terminology was not used, it was understood that one of my roles in this community that I was,
Yeah.
a part of and that I was helping orchestrate the social map of
Yeah.
was that I was not going to work and I was going to breed as much as possible. I was going to
Okay.
have, as one of the genetic elite, I was going to procreate to help populate the genetic elite.
I feel a little bit like I'm in my Tiger King conversation because so many times I had to be like, wait, what? 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 Because I like, I mean, everybody should watch this on YouTube. I always say that you should watch it on our YouTube channel at The Prophet Goddess anyway, because you can see facial expressions and all these things you can't see with Spotify. Okay. So that's my big shout out to that. But you're a good looking woman, blonde hair, long blonde, blah, 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 the bone structure, the whole deal. But are you saying that that was like literally procreate, like because you are smart and this and all that, but you're the chick as well. But these guys are guys, so they're not at least at the moment popping out the babies. So you're popping them out and or potentially,
Mhm.
and so that was a
That was the
good role for you to be in.
Yeah, and this was the plan. I'd also demonstrated that I was capable of thriving in the environments that they created in the test.
Ah, okay, very important. Because so this in my world is the equivalent of when the rich guy brings the stripper, my friends are going to know who I'm talking about, into their world, but at the end of the day she still can't hide the fact that she's not educated, doesn't have the background, doesn't know how to use a fish knife, right? It's okay. So in your case, this is the opposite because they found you who is good looking and conversational and all those things. And you can swim in that pond no matter how small the pond is. Like you are
Yeah,
vettable,
right.
right?
And again, this is all of their bias, all of their conditioning about
Totally get
weight,
it. Yeah.
like,
It's just
all this other bullshit that's, like, not actually scientifically,
right.
like,
Okay. Right. But
obviously no human is genetically superior to
I
another. That's
get it. I get it. But this is fascinating to me because I guess I just maybe like I guess I just never thought that people are actually having this conversation.
explicitly all the time. Like, it was a conversation where, like, even talking about, like, I think, they joke about how, like, the highest minds, like, talk about ideas, and it was the ideas about the future, the
Okay.
ideas about, like, the society that we wanna build, quote,
Right.
unquote, "we," um,
Yeah.
and what the power machinations need to look like to actually achieve that.
Okay.
Explicit
Now,
conversation at every dinner party.
okay. So now this is fascinating to me
Mhm.
because, well, I mean, for many, many, many reasons, fascinating. Me having companies, right? And then, to have a company and be an entrepreneur, you got to be a little bit out there, blah, 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 blah. But you learn very quickly, at least, well, in my case, very slowly, that you need all different kinds of people to make your organization run, right?
Yeah.
Like I can be the noisy alpha girl, etc. And when I was younger, you do just keep like every barn door is one to for the bull to push down, right? But then you do start to realize you need a balance to build your ecosystem or a company. So my question to you is these people all had companies or have companies, had certainly knew that, right? That it takes all kinds. You can't just have all kinds of screaming alphas all the time. So how did they account for that?
I wouldn't say that they knew that at all, Marley.
Oh,
The structure that was classic was you had this loud male figurehead,
okay.
CEO, whatever, and then the 3 women right underneath him who did all of the work. So you saw this over and over and over again in every org structure, every social graph. You
Really?
saw this like fractally all over the place. For some reason, it's always 3 women.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and okay. And so then on the new planet, let's just pretend that that's where we're going to go. In the perfect org chart, it would be the guy with the 3 chicks and those like do we start going like Mormon wives direction where it's like that's the guy and the 3 wives and then those 3 or you know smart chicks are having babies because everybody's smart?
It's exhausting. I mean, just think Handmaid's Tale, right? So
Yeah.
when you've got like the challenge of fertility, and if anyone wants to look up Robin Hanson, by the way, like you should absolutely do it. Look up Mencius Moldbug. These guys have been talking about this exact plan on the internet in public for like 2 decades. So like, I'm
Okay.
not just fact check me. I swear to God, guys.
Yeah,
Like, this
yeah,
is
yeah, 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 yeah. No, I get it. Okay.
and by the way, Mencius Moldbug, I'm just blanking on his name. We'll have to fix that in post because
All
I
good.
forget his name.
No worries.
He is now like the right hand man of JD Vance. So like they fully infiltrated like our major system of government.
Hmm.
And he is explicitly, there's been Vogue, I think it was what was it, Esquire articles written about him where he is pro dictatorship, anti democracy explicitly, and he's the right hand
Wow.
man of our vice president. I mean, it is so diabolical that it's almost impossible to believe. So yes, no, they fully intend to solve the quote unquote solve the problem of fertility of the elites, so that by hook or by crook, right? We're not talking about like monogamous marriages that are nice,
Right.
like we're or consensual by any stretch. We're
Yeah.
talking about people who are devoted to what they believe is required to become an intergalactic species. That was the term, intergalactic species. Intergalactic species. We got to like bust through
Okay.
that threshold.
So
Mhm.
maybe this is very hilarious that I just started watching that show Star City, which is all about, and by the way, I had to Google it. I thought it was like a joke. Like I didn't even, I mean, this just tells you how You can be intelligent in one area and absolutely the biggest Nimrod in another. Because I had no idea Star City was a real genuine thing. I thought it was some like made up, and then I Google it and it's like, oh no, it genuinely is in Uzbekistan or whatever. And it was a closely guarded Soviet secret and all this stuff. So are you saying they like literally wanted to populate the other planet? Like how they're kind of talking on that show, at least right now, as far as I am, they're talking about going to the moon, and then they're like, no, we need to go to Venus. So you're saying they not necessarily Venus, but they're picking
Mhm.
somewhere else where like a country club. We're just gonna pick up our members and we're gonna go there.
Yeah. That's literally the idea. And they write about this too. The Heritage Foundation just released an article
Okay.
in February talking about what I would refer to as breeding camps for single people, where single people are concentrated in one area in a quote
Okay.
unquote boot camp. I think, we've heard this term before. Um, or concentrated in one area in a quote unquote boot camp to meet one another so that they can start to reproduce. So like
Okay,
this
so
is
now I know of boot camps, probably like you
Mhm.
do, like where it's like a boot camp, and I think of it as like a business thing or whatever. Is there sort of that underground current that it's a business thing, or are they like not duping the people who jump into it? But does everybody who jumps into it, are they thinking that there's this other piece to it?
So I don't
Is
know that
everybody onto it? I guess is what I'm saying.
okay. So
Because if
so I
they are, I've missed the boat.
Yeah, so they haven't done a big marketing push around this yet.
Okay.
It was a memo from the Heritage Foundation sort of indicating a future plan. So
Huh.
basically, like, the moment that we do see this happening, like,
Yeah.
obviously there's singles events, there's singles
Right.
mixers, there's tons of stuff like this that motivates, people who wanna find a partner. But
Right.
this was with the specific intent of creating families that will then reproduce and populate whatever planet they happen to be on. Because again, the fertility, the dropping fertility rates of the
Right.
elites is the number one threat to human civilization.
Okay. Now, so is that why Elon Musk has all these different kids and all these different baby
It is
mamas?
100% why I will stake my reputation on that. Yes, it is
Wow, there you
absolutely.
go. Okay, so that because I just saw one of okay, so those are he's got a very interesting collection of baby mamas. Okay, so then, all right, I get it. Now, why do you think that group is not having as many kids? Is it because, well, the obvious choice would be, or maybe obvious to my brain would be they are too busy?
Mhm.
Or is it because they don't believe in, I don't know, like do they have a conscious reason for it? Because to me, I cranked out 3 kids and 2 out of 3 I was in escrow on 2 buildings. It was like I never got a minute off, and it was a miracle I had 3, quite frankly, right? But why did they not have very many?
So I would say that among the quote unquote elites, right? So this is again their definition of elite is people who have demonstrated that they could succeed in the environment that late capitalism and imperial capitalism has imposed upon us, which means that they've got enough money, they've got enough, I don't know, they've got enough resources basically to theoretically have kids. So why aren't they? But I'll couch it in my own story because I think that
Okay.
that's the safest thing, right?
Good.
So I think
Perfect.
like my own story is that when I think about the prospect of, and I was partnered for a long time with a great, amazing partner, where like we could have had kids, the stress and the cost on women, given
Yeah.
that given that the female partner tends to do an undue amount of the I forget exactly what the percentages are, but it's a drastic majority of the domestic labor, while also now being expected to create half the income,
Okay,
right?
so I'm not the only one that feels exhausted. Okay,
No,
this is good
absolutely
to
not.
know. Okay, keep
Yeah,
going.
so this is a widely known thing, and so women more and more, that plus the fact that we now know how to, or we are out capable and are given the opportunity, at least some of us. This is another case for inequity, by the way. So white women are obviously given way more opportunity to go and make money. Black women have been being like a working moms for forever.
Mhm.
So this is a thing where there's a lot of other components, other sociological components to factor in here. But, I would say that my own personal experience was when I think about the career cost that it would the toll it would take on my career to take however much time that I needed to take off. We see the income curve for women just flatten out around their childbearing years. And
Mm.
so I think that a lot of women are putting that off. They're putting off finding partners in service of their careers and like having that upward trajectory and putting off till later. That's something that I see in my cohort, at least. And then women in tech, we're
Okay.
seeing this all the time. Like tech companies are giving women egg, like they're including egg freezing as a benefit as
Yes. Okay. So now, all right, because clearly I missed the memo on this. When I was like, to me, my version was, I'm going to, like how I grew up, you're going to get married and you're going to have kids and you're going to have the white picket fence and whatever. Now, obviously, I diverted from that tremendously, much to my parents' dismay. But I just was like, oh, you're going to have kids. And I'm one of those people who is just loves work and business. And, I just, that's what I want to do all day long. So to me, it was like, well, I'm going to need to have kids. I want to have kids. So I'm just going to have to smush all of that kind of like into a vacuum sucking bag in the suitcase, right? It's just going to all now have to fit somehow because I'm not willing to give up my career. But okay, so then now, and so then you see why, like, because at the end of the day, women are still, or I'm still, always fascinated by the fact that, the kids would be sick or whatever, and I would still be the first call, even though it's like, well, yeah, because you're working from home. It's like I might be working from home. I'm working like 7 jobs, like running 7 different things at the same time. But yes, okay.
And even truly wonderful men who aspire to be equal partners, their conditioning prevents them. It's like they've got blinders on. Like they're like it's like they're colorblind to the metaphor. Like they just
Okay.
can't see it. They can't
Okay.
see the stuff that needs doing because of their conditioning. It's we see it all over the place.
Okay. So with you and your, so I want to go back to, like, there's so many things I want to talk about that I can't even. So with your guy that you were with, how long were you with him? Can you say that or
Or
no?
yeah, 4 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mhm.
And then did you just not want to have kids? Is that, let me be inappropriate to
Well,
ask?
we never got there. So I was very much on this like, like luckily I was raised by a very powerful second wave feminist breadwinner in my family, mom.
Okay. Yeah.
Like Camp is actually her last name. Shout out Claudia Camp. It was almost like this little fever dream that I had with this relationship where I
Okay.
like just it was almost like I was cosplaying a Stepford wife. Like that's kind of the there's this one photo of me with Curtis Yarvin, by the way, who's that was the name that I was trying to think of earlier, of me
Okay.
like in this frilly orange dress serving a cake for my partner's birthday, and he's like in the background at this party again, like now the man who is anti-dictator or anti-democracy explicitly, and who is now the right hand man to JD Vance and Peter Thiel. So that like that is my Stepford wife era is what we call it.
Were you
Yeah.
in the frilly dress, do you think, because you were you were like, "Oh, I can play this role?" Like, did you feel pressure to play the role or
I mean, it was more like so okay, here's the other thing about power, right? Is that and this is why I think that there's this vortex of influence that happens in Silicon Valley.
right?
It's back into my nervous system work, by the way. So
Yes.
we want to segue there. So basically when you've got all these people in this vortex of like self-affirmation and confirmation bias,
Right.
right? And look
Right.
up those terms. Basically, like you look around and people keep telling you you're awesome and you believe them, and then
Right.
they keep believing you because you believe them, right? So it's a circular dynamic. And it's really hard, especially when people are being outwardly rewarded. Like these people are getting famous, they're becoming billionaires.
Got
You're like,
it.
"Ooh," like they must be doing something right, right? And it turns out the answer is no, they are not. It is all just one big illusion. So all that goes to say, I was in the frilly dress, and the proximity to power was intoxicating. And
Yeah.
that's why I tolerated it as long as I could. Now, I was here behind the scenes with all this soft power. Like what I came away with it with is this social graph of the billionaires and millionaires in
Right.
Silicon
Right.
Valley that I helped orchestrate. Obviously, I was far from the only one, but like I've got this unique insight into like how power flows through that ecosystem.
Because you were
So,
basically like
yeah.
Betty Crocker in a designer dress meets a spy.
Right. And so
Got it.
did I know that at the time? No, because
No,
I
got
was
it.
just intoxicated by the but there's gotta be, I would love to believe, Marley, there was some unconscious genetic disposition to like sticking around to see what happened and like doing the thing because it was kind of
Well,
fun and like made me feel powerful. It was at their pleasure, of course, but like and then I came away with it with this very unique insight that I don't think almost nobody else
no,
has.
I mean, no, they don't, because I interview a lot of people. I certainly talk to
Mhm.
gazillions of people in my life, and you have that. Like, I feel like this is like a Vanity Fair article, right? You have that inside scoop. It's like somebody that's been on the inside,
Yeah.
right? Telling us, because you were one of them.
And the
Right?
thing that made me powerful, the thing that made me so good at this job, and this is how I kind of ended up in the work that I'm doing now, because I started taking it seriously. The fact that I was somehow, despite being like not having a huge pedigree, I was not some CEO of a tech company,
Right.
and yet pedigree being one of their words, of course, eugenics, hello, being, and yet I had this power, and I got curious about why that was. My ability to read a room and then through my own body, trust that signal that I was getting about who needs something, who's,
Okay,
shaky.
so pause. It's high emotional intelligence is what I'm taking in. High emotional
Mhm.
intelligence meets empath.
Yep,
So that's where the alchemy is kind of probably
yep.
empath to a certain
And
extent.
then the fact that I could then broadcast a
Right.
new state onto whoever was there.
It's like baking a cake,
Yeah,
flour, eggs, whatever. Like you start putting it all together. Now you have a whole new product. So now, and that's what you're doing now,
yeah.
right?
So
Okay.
that's effectively is. So it is when I talk about the nervous system as an instrument for power, this is
Yeah.
how I learned how to do it. And then my anatomy and physiology background led me down a road where I literally got to understand the biomechanical.
So it all came together. Now, one question I fundamentally believe there is always a trigger
Mhm.
for something that is the tipping point,
Yeah.
whether we see it at the time or not. But in hindsight, we usually can and we go, oh, well, that was pretty obvious, right? What was your, because how do you go from, Armani frilly dress on the inside to, oh no, I'm going to get out of that relationship or that scene or whatever it is? Because you're not in Silicon Valley now. You didn't marry the guy.
Thank goodness. To credit him, it's a long story, but I wish that I had a better, more empowered narrative around this, but the straight up truth, Marley,
Yeah.
is that I got kicked out on my ass.
Oh,
He
good. Well, then now we're in this. Now I know why I like you so much. Okay, got it.
Like, the train wreck happened. I stayed as long as I could stand it, and then I started acting out in the relationship, and that the way that people do when they don't know how to end a relationship. I
The
was 28.
usual.
I go easy on myself. I was not as good at relationships then.
Hey,
I wasn't gonna
listen.
marry my
Okay.
husband, he was amazing. And I think that, I got kicked out on my ass and was forced because I had not saved any money
Right.
because I was gonna be taken care of. Like, I was gonna be the brood mare for
Right.
this new civilization. I was not saving any money. I had heard about crypto in 2000, God, 2011, understood it, and was like, "That's not for me."
Ooh,
When back when a
interesting.
Bitcoin was $1 as opposed to 50,000, you know what I mean?
Isn't that
So
and that goes to what you're saying, but it also goes to because I try to make like I know kind of who our audience is, right? I
Mhm.
mean, to a certain extent. Now, what's amazing to me is that we're in 74 countries or whatever
Mhm.
now, people listening to this. But you can apply it. Like not everybody who listens is a chicken business, right? We've got some of them are my friends who are like, oh, I just want to hear what she's going to go off about today. But what's interesting is even my friends who are not in business, let's say, what you're talking about is exactly what happens in country clubs and everything. I mean, this is our world, like in a different way. And then same thing, you know, girl goes to XYZ grade school, she gets married young, the husband's taking care of her, blah, blah, blah. She puts him through medical school, law school, whatever. I mean, it's a classic story, right? But he writes the checks, he does all the stuff. She doesn't have any idea. He leaves for the secretary. And
Yeah,
then she's like, oh my gosh, now what? So in a way, you had that same kind of, oh
absolutely.
boy, forced to come up with your next gig, right?
Yeah. And I wasn't, I didn't come from any kind of money. I was not trained in financial literacy. Like,
Right.
I had to figure all this stuff out on my own when I was, I guess starting at 28, but then, starting my business when I was 30.
Between 28 and 30, I mean, in some ways that's a very short amount of time, but like what was happening in those 2 years? Were you
I was
crying
still
like I do and then you're like, "Okay, now I'm gonna change my shirt from Ben& and Jerry's that I've been wearing every day?" Or you like how what was happening there?
it was a process. I think there was, my breakup advice these days is take it 3 weeks at a time. There was 3 weeks where I was an absolute disaster, like full
Yeah.
I just needed to get through those, survive. That's it. That was my
Yes.
only goal. And from there, Marley, this is a big influence on my value set now and the civilization that I want to be shaping and the
Okay.
civilization that I'm explicitly planning now,
Right?
which is one where someone can completely lose basically everything, right?
Yeah.
Quote unquote everything that I thought was important
Yeah.
and be so completely held by her community. Like, I thought that
Yes.
I didn't know that, like, people liked me more than him. Like, had
Mm,
no I mean, I had no way of knowing, like, having any confidence in that.
interesting.
But it turns out I was like, I was the part he had all the money and the tacit, the overt hard influence. But, I was cradled by my community. I was couch surfing again for a little while. I was given job opportunities and like hooked. Given my last job in tech that I had was given during that era when I was still crying like maybe every other day. And so it was my community. They fed me. That was an area where they did feed me and they did house me, and it was like just they listened to me cry. I mean, this was a show of community support that has made me know in my bones that I can never truly fail.
Well, and I want to jump on that for a second because one of the most popular podcasts I did was by accident. I did it at the beginning of the year, and it was about, how like so many times at the beginning of the year it's like, oh, we're, you know so excited for the bright shiny new year. And this is like, for, let's say, I mean, every at the end of every year people say that, but and it was like I was coming into, like, my end of 2025 was not fabulous. I mean, there were many fabulous things about 2025, but it was like I was coming into it, and I always think I get kind of, I can be in a funky mood or whatever because my birthday's in December, et cetera, et cetera. It's like you roll into all these holidays, all this other emotional stuff.
Also Sagittarius, Thanksgiving week.
Yo, thank you. Now I know. Okay, now it makes sense. Okay, perfect. That's a whole other story. So, but I went into I did the first podcast of the year, and I was like, hey, anybody else feel like the title of my podcast, Every Day's a Trainer? Like, because I said, I don't feel like this is like, something needs to change. I don't know what it is. It just felt like you were like in the muck. And then I think my dad would always say, when the chips are down, you know who your friends are, right? And that cuts both ways because sometimes you think that you're sure the people are going to show up for you. You're just like how this is not going well. How are you not even texting? Like, I get we're all busy or whatever. But then on the flip side, the people who are, as you say, like, you are a bird now in their nest. I mean, it's the equivalent of you knocking on the door in the middle of the rainstorm, and they are like, yeah, come in, take a bath. Here's fresh clothes. Here's a
Yep.
toothbrush. And you're just like, where did you come from? Like, I didn't even think I
What did I
knew
do to
you that
deserve
well.
this? What did I do?
Right.
And so then that was a big question for me about what did I do to deserve it? I mean, first
Right.
off, okay, everyone deserves love and support, blah, blah, blah. But then I was like, no, there's a framework here that if we
Yes.
can think about building communities this way and then scale it up to not even scale it, but like make it repeatable for individual communities of their own who have maybe different values than mine, right?
What were the components of those? So what was so it's like, the scaffolding or like the anatomy of that. You had one anatomy skeleton kind of going over there. And then what was the one where you were like, okay, this would be my version so that people who are down get taken care of? Like, what did that look like?
So, specifically, the way that I frame this now is imperial capitalist values versus my values. And
Okay.
my values very explicitly are interdependence, right? So,
Okay.
there's not this like hyper individualism that we see in
Okay.
imperial capitalism, a distributed power as opposed to hierarchy and having to like
Okay.
try to like everyone trying to win at the expense of everyone
Okay.
else when collaborating instead. So
Yeah.
collaboration's value. Consent, which I hopefully speaks for itself, as opposed to
Yeah.
coercion, which
Yeah.
everyone's been forced into fucking everything in
Yeah.
capitalism. And those when we're living into those values every day in these very small ways, you build real incredibly durable relationships where like I'm not thinking about, oh, what am I gonna get? This sounds so obvious, right? Like, what
Right.
I'm not thinking, like, what am I gonna get because I hosted this dinner party? It's like, no, people come to my space, they feel held, they feel loved, they feel nourished. It is the most natural and human thing in the world. And again, I studied human, like primatology was a big part of my main for my degree.
Yeah.
Like, we are social animals. Hyper independence is one of the least adaptive traits that we can have as a social animal.
And then you
For
get into the whole thing about happiness and whatever. And
yeah.
those studies where you have to have some kind of community around now. So I'm going to push back for people who are saying, okay, so what, in one way, what you're describing is kind of like a commune. I mean, it's a little bit like, let's go back to the 60s. Okay. And you and I are both gardeners. So I get the concept of the community garden and no question. However, what I want to ask you then is, at the end of the day, how does anything get done? So let me bring it to what you're doing. So you're doing this entrepreneurial summit, right? You reach out and we found each other, and I was like, oh, I love it. Like, checked it out. Love what you're doing. Love the whole thing. But I'm going to play devil's advocate, say Becca is still in charge of the summit, right? Becca is still, so we're all collaborating. Like I sent my email yesterday. I'm very happy to say it got a fairly high open rate already. And
Nice.
Becca is still,
Mhm.
there is still a conductor. Becca is
Is
still driving the train. And here's what I mean by that. Because when I was going to do my copy, right, for my promise to emails, and so I put your name in my email, my inbox to see all the components. And then that's usually what I do. And then I read through all the communication from the beginning to the end so that I retell myself the story. So I kind of immerse myself. Okay. And what was very obvious to me was you're very organized.
Mm.
This was not your first rodeo. You made it very easy for somebody like me to participate in your summit, which we're going to talk about in a second. And I very much got the feeling that every email, whether or not it was you or it might have been your assistant, something else, but it was very like Becca is inviting you. It's Becca is, you're
Mhm.
coming into Becca's world. I'm not saying that you gave me the impression that like Becca's better than me, but I very much felt like, okay, I can sit back and follow Becca's direction because you were giving direction. You were saying, whatever, send a couple emails and everybody community promote it, which I love.
Mhm.
Do you see what I'm saying? So what is how how does that factor in?
Yeah. So the best power dynamics that create a civilization that is durable and can last and can sustain
Right.
itself
Right. Right.
has power that is fluid. And actually, one of my favorite teachers, Kasia Braniak, talks. She's a pro dominatrix. Talks about the flow and fluidity between dominance and submission. And so
Okay.
this is where the parallel to an event like the summit is that I am a leader who serves at your pleasure and the pleasure of the 21 other speakers. Right? If I was a dick, or if I was like disorganized, or like seemed like I wasn't making it easy, or felt like I was like
Right.
extracting shit from you, you guys would be like, peace out, thanks, never, see you never. Right?
Yeah.
And so for me, like, this is where the communal benefit of it comes from having defined roles. Again, like, the fact that power is distributed or flows and is fluid doesn't mean that there's no defined roles. In fact, like, I really believe that, in fact, it's essential that we define our own roles in this revolution that we're having if we want a different kind of culture. So that's a story for another day. But having, really best in class leadership, and I think this is hopefully
Got
getting
it.
ahead of time, is a service at the pleasure of the people that's being
So I
led.
think, okay, so now I think I get it because I guess to me, that not that I've lived on a commune, but like I guess the key word that is sticking in my brain is the fluidity component. Somebody is rising to lead, and then like in because normally I have to drive the bus with all the things I'm doing, right?
Mhm.
Just because that's the nature of, I have a business, right? And you're responsible for people's payroll, et cetera, et cetera. But in this case, even though I have that capability to drive the train, in your sense, I'm stepping back and that's so somebody still is in charge. It isn't a headless horseman. It's just who's wearing the head on the horse,
Yeah,
driving.
for the mission that you're trying to accomplish, and
Got it.
also because I did live briefly in a communal home. So there was this big, amazing Victorian, mansion where there were 14 bedrooms, and, basically, like, 15 of my best friends lived there. So I was
Right.
there all the time and lived there briefly. And having areas of responsibility, AORs, like, there was the food czar, the fridge czar, literally someone just in charge of making sure that the refrigerator was not a shit show. Like, stuff like that, having these predefined roles that, again, all roll up into a shared vision
Got it.
of what it looks like to live into our values every day. That's the goal.
Total. Okay. I love it. Now tell us about, because there are people on, I mean, obviously I could talk to you forever. Tell us about the summit. Tell us who's going to be part of it and kind of how you chose them, et cetera.
Yeah, so we've got an all-star lineup. It's really, really thrilling. The summit's called Embodied Entrepreneurship, and it's 22 conversations with entrepreneurs of all stripes, basically all backgrounds, all areas of expertise, who all share a common story of recognizing the instrumental nature of their own body and nervous system in their success.
Okay.
So it's less about like, oh, I did this strategy and so awesome because I'm so successful in this way. And they're like, nah, girl, I got run down, I got burned out, or I discovered I had a superpower when I listened to my intuition and my instincts again. The stories are all over the place. So there's just all sorts of paths of entrepreneurship. And then we've got folks for whom embodiment and the nervous system is really their bread and butter. So we've got Anne
Sure.
Marie McQueen, we've got Amy Schroeder, who's the CEO of the founder of the Midst, which is a community that discusses midlife hormones and menopause and perimenopause. And so it's a really powerful time for women
So
that
it's
Mhm.
if I'm getting it, then instead of saying use this app, be part of the 5 a.m. club or whatever, do this, this, and this, you're saying they're teaching you like via the Sequoia method, kind of, which is this was my struggle and this was my so get the blueprint almost out of the this is what happened to me, which is
Mhm.
why the trigger that is why I'm now doing X, which is like in your case.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talk about strategy too. So
Oh
again,
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
I
I mean,
break
you have
down
to have strategy, but it just it's
I break
coming
down to
about from you.
20. Yeah, so I like to cut this usually in anyone's success, I find there's very consistently about 20% strategy and
Yeah,
80% mind body,
yeah,
right?
got it. And okay, great. Well, how can people sign up?
Yes. So there is a registration page, super easy. It'll give you all the information about the speakers and the timing. It's a virtual summit, by the way, so you can just watch the recordings at your leisure. My interview with Marley, we already recorded it, and it is dynamite, as you would expect.
As
Um,
you'd expect, yes.
Yes. So you'll get the recordings trickled out to you via your email when you register. So
Yeah.
yeah, super easy. Just register with your email, and you'll receive those interviews trickling into your inbox from June 15th to June 19th.
Okay, so we're going to do that, but just in case somebody is like just listening to this and not clicking or whatever, is
Yeah.
there an easy URL that we can give them that they might be able to remember or no?
And there's not an easy one, but we can create one, and we
Okay.
can maybe fix it in post.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Because I want to get this out next week. And so it officially runs. I get that you can listen to it at your leisure, but officially runs from when to when?
June 15th to June 19th.
June 15th. So you've been a very busy girl. Well, I cannot thank you enough for this, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Now we'll have to have you back on to actually discuss kinesiology and all those like other amazing things. But quite frankly, I think you're going to get people who are just going to be like, "That was very cool," and I
It's
want
it's
to.
a wild origin
Uh,
story. I don't give it enough
wanna-
credit, honestly.
no, you don't. You don't because I'm like, that was a freaking great story.
Yeah.
Like, let's keep digging into that. Well, Becca, how can people find you just in general?
I'm Becca Camp everywhere. I was in tech very early, so I got all of those properties, beccacamp.com, Becca Camp on Instagram. Those are the best places to find me.
I love it. Okay, so beccacamp.com, and I'm sure at beccacamp.com they can sign up for.
Stay in touch. Again, I write all about both my business journey and nervous system mechanics and how the two interplay together for success, but also like my crazy ass stories. Like I like to think pretty funny.
That is, well, you got to have that because let's face it. I mean, you got to connect with the story. You can't just connect with the oh, and then you're going to do this, and again, you're going to use that app, or you're
Totally.
going to
Yep.
connect. So I love it. Well,
Tune
Becca,
in.
this was a complete pleasure. Again, we'll have to have you on again to dig deeper, but I just had to get the story. So
Yeah,
you
absolutely. Open book.
everybody go to beccacamp.com, follow her on Instagram, and hopefully you are going to subscribe. Please don't forget to subscribe. Send this to an entrepreneur, business owner, somebody who's just maybe struggling.
Mhm.
And follow us on our YouTube channel, The Profit Goddess, for sure. Comment and share. And we're so grateful to have you. So
Yep.
this is Marley Major signing off. Thank you, Becca, on another week of Everyday's Train Wreck. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.